Today on Makes Remote Work, we've got Chip Paucek, veteran CEO and now co-founder of Pro Athlete Community, someone who knows what it takes to build teams, trust, and performance. Few leaders have spent as much time thinking about how people come together and win as much as Chip. This one was special. Hope you enjoy. All right, welcome back, everybody. Today's guest is Chip Paucek of PAC, the Pro Athlete Community. Chip, thanks for joining us here today.
Super happy to be here. Big Rome fan here, John. Big Rome fan.
I appreciate that. And we're big PAC fans. So let's start with PAC, the Pro Athlete Community. Tell me a little bit about the mission behind it, why you started it, and generally, how it's going.
So Pro Athlete Community is a private membership organization for pro athletes. So if you look across all industries, every industry has typically membership affiliations where you can come together as a community. And what's incredible about pro athletes is they are remarkably elite. What they've achieved is the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. And the reality is that they've not been able to come together both while they're still playing and in their post-playing career. So you can think of it as like a locker room for their long-term future. How do you unlock opportunities long-term, given the fact that they've had this incredible first act? What's the second, third, fourth act? The reality is being a pro athlete should be your first meal, not your last meal. And our job is to create exposure opportunities for the pros, education opportunities, mentoring opportunities, to really think longer term. The notion that somebody would be retired in their early 30s or their late 20s is not just comical, it's offensive. If you get the pro going the right direction, it's kind of remarkable what they can accomplish, because the grit, rigor, resilience, teamwork, all these traits that they have are directly relevant to their long-term future. So our job is to help them unlock it long-term.
I love that. And, me personally, I feel sort of close to this mission statement in general, as much as you can be without being a former professional athlete. One, just from my interest in sports. Two, I have a lot of friends that played in the NFL after college and are now doing all various things and went through exactly what you just mentioned. And then also my wife is a former D1 athlete, so she didn't quite go pro, but at the same time, she still dedicated her life to sports for like 15 or 20 years of it before changing paths. So definitely an awesome mission there. In terms of the team itself, what does that look like? Are you a remote team or is it hybrid? Like, do you have an office? What's the layout there?
Oh, we are everywhere. So we are fully remote. Our team is made up of, and it's a really incredible group of people, but we have many former professional athletes that are full-time at PAC in various roles. So, my COO played for 5 teams in the NFL, and then our entire sales team is former pros. And in part because of that, people really are where they need to be. And we're thinking about them from a talent perspective, as what's most important is the talent we want to bring to the team, not the location. Now, I have to tell you, my past life was very office centric. So that was uncomfortable for me at first. Pretty proud of myself that I went from 4,000 employees back to 2 and sort of doing the startup grind here again. But, we're now up into the 20s in terms of the team. And they really are completely distributed. They're all over the place. We even have a couple of people that are often in outside of the United States. So I don't think it would really be possible for us to be as efficient as we are without Rome, and I wasn't paid to say this, as you know, John.
Yes, I do know.
So the thing that's so interesting is when I ran to you, the offices were a huge part of the culture. And I really believe that one of the hardest things when COVID hit is everything had to be, extremely intentional. You didn't have this sort of immediate collaboration explosion that would just happen, or the water cooler discussions, you're getting coffee and you run into a colleague and you're able to talk about something real time. Everything all of a sudden had to be a scheduled session, and as CEO, anytime I would schedule, that's a high stakes thing for whoever I'm scheduling it with, even though I may not mean it to be high stakes. What I love about Rome is it allows that unscheduled, spontaneous discussion. And you can tell when people, it really does replicate all the aspects of what you would have if you had a physical location. So even like when I show the players Rome, because we have many of the players are actually, we give them offices in Rome. And when they're in Rome, it's like, if I'm in a conference room, I'm in there with somebody. And if you know who that is, well, you could pop in, just like if you were walking into an office and you had the clear glass. Most conference rooms are clear glass, and or windows into them. And if you saw everybody was in there, people there's just norms you get used to where you would bop in. Very difficult to do in any other virtual environment. But with Rome, you know who's meeting with who, and you could pop in. The other thing that it does that is really important, and I think equally important, is the amount of time pre-Rome, if you were remote, that you'd be trying to figure out how to get somebody in the company that you needed to get to. So you're wasting a ton of time calling, my COO. Well, I don't know that he's in a Zoom, so I don't know that he's on a meeting. And how would I know? Or I don't know that he's in a Teams thing or whatever it is. The nice thing about Rome is I can tell I'm not going to call him and waste my time or his time if he's in some, and it just takes away the friction.
Now, I know you're big into culture, right? You're a big culture guy. How does the culture work, or how do you drive the culture at Pack? To bring it to like a sports sort of analogy. In sports, wins and losses tell you if the culture is working, right? If it's a good team, they got great culture in the organization. If it's a bad team, it's a toxic environment. You got to get out of there, right? But in a remote organization, what is like your wins and losses? What is your scoreboard to know that culture is working for you?
Culture is a funny thing. One of the things that I really believe about a company's culture is the definition of the culture, first of all, is important, like defining it, like the intentionality of defining it. Like, what do you care about? How do you show up? What do you believe in? And we do our best to do that. We also believe, like, be comfortable being uncomfortable, like, bruise your shins, like lean. It's a startup, so you got to go. And like the way we win compared to every big company is that, we're not going to work to a 90% confidence interval. We're going to move, and we're going to pivot if we don't get it right, try to figure out what we didn't get right, bruise the shins and move on. What I think is interesting about a company's culture is the culture won't always get you to the right answer, but it's almost like, I don't know how old your kids are. If you go to the bowling alley, you have a hell of a time if you just push the button and the bumpers come up, and everybody has a great time because the kids never get a gutter ball. The ball's bing, maybe they get a strike or not. A great culture at a company is really like the bumpers. It won't get you a strike every time, but man, will it prevent the gutter balls. And so we try our best to instill that in the folks. You don't get it right every day. You don't get everything right, but I feel like we've got a pretty special team, and we're running together at what I think is a pretty big opportunity worldwide.
That's really cool. I like that bumper analogy. That's a great one. So let's shift over to like founder advice, right? We'll kind of end on this one, and then I have a bonus question for you, if you will.
Okay.
But what do first time founders usually realize too late? You said yourself you've started 4 companies, taken one of them through IPO, right? So you've had a long career doing this. What would you give advice to first time founders that they usually realize too late and then have to backtrack?
The unbelievable power of focus. It is, as a founder, startups are hard. They're much harder than anybody thinks. There's 1,000 reasons they'll go wrong. There's a small number of reasons that you'll be right. Companies, startups they often fail under their own weight. So once you find a business model that really works, just drive at it very hard. And, you got to try to ignore the bright, shiny object a little bit. The reality is, for an entrepreneur, the bright, shiny object is very tempting. And you just got to make sure that you're not doing it at the expense of the rest of the company, because companies can only handle so much. You can only do so much at once. A lot of times they'll fail under their own weight. It took me learning that the hard way, by the way, to feel strongly about it.
That's awesome. Well, in the spirit of short meetings, we will call it there. Chip, thank you so much for your time.
Rock and
I
roll.
know you're a busy guy. I really appreciate you jumping in here. For everybody else listening, if you enjoyed this conversation and would like to hear more, please like and subscribe to the Makes Remote Work podcast. I will talk to you all on the next one. Chip, have a wonderful day. Thank you,
See you,
everybody.
John.